I'm really excited. You know, when Erik got in touch with me, I was, wow, this is too perfect. I think we can all agree that if there's one thing we'd like to get more as far as participation, it'd be young people. And Erik's got a program that's going to engage young people. But he's got quite a story. This guy taught in China. He taught in Dubai. He's a flight instructor. He's MEI. He's got a lot of Aztec time. But at the core, he's an educator. So is his wife. And so he is intimately, very well qualified to conduct this. He approached us about doing this at our facility. And I'm not going to steal his thunder, but he was a big part of developing this entire curriculum. And I think it's going to be great as far as hopefully bringing some more young people. So please join me in welcoming Erik Yates.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for inviting me and letting me talk about the program and some interesting things that I hope to do in conjunction with the chapter. I've got to say, technology is a wonderful thing and a horrible thing. You know, there's that famous time when Steve Jobs was introducing an iPhone, right? You know, there was no Wi-Fi or something. He couldn't demonstrate. You know, yeah, that's same here tonight. I was all ready to go, laptop's ready until I got to the parking lot. But on the flip side, technology's great, and this is coming to you from my phone of all things. So way to go, Google. Anyway, so I'm Erik Yates, and I think like maybe a lot of pilots, you know, I got my first flight when my dad got his private pilot license back when I was 5 years old. We were in New Jersey at the time, and you know, I made a lot of the $100 hamburger flights from Caldwell and Linden Airport in eastern New Jersey out to Sky Manor in western New Jersey. Which anybody been to Sky Manor, the airport out there, November 40? Right? Yeah, it's a great little country airport. Wonderful restaurant. Just don't go on Tuesdays. Close on Tuesdays. And I ended up taking flying lessons there. Started off with sailplanes, and then moved into powered flight, and got my certificate when I was in high school still. And then every summer after that, just progressed up the ladder through the different certificates, and ended up with MEII, hold an ATP certificate as well as Part 107. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and got to fly with my dad for many years. For I guess about 10 years, we were in flying club together, and then he decided to buy an airplane. We got an Aztec. We had that for about 30 years. So it's been a lot of fun, and all that while I was thinking, it'd be great to be a pilot for a career, but I think we're all of the age where we know what it was like trying to get a pilot job in the 80s, 90s. Not easy. I was really lucky that parents of some of my students, because not being able to be a pilot, I went another while I was flight instructing. I realized the pilot thing wasn't going to happen, so I took some graduate classes at night to get certified as a teacher. And then some parents of a couple of my students were pilots at Continental, and so we'll write you letters. Go on down to Houston. You could be a first officer for $17,000 a year. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, sure. It was before kids, so I thought that was good. It'd be all right. Didn't end up getting the job. Apparently, I was overqualified. Having a master's degree in education was not something they wanted first officers to have, apparently. So that didn't work out, and continued to teach and be a flight instructor on the side. As Mark said, one of my teaching jobs was overseas at an international school in Dubai. And as that contract was wrapping up, I learned about a position down the ramp here at AOPA. They were working on a high school aviation curriculum, and they needed a director of curriculum. Wow, wait a minute, you need a teacher who's a flight instructor and loves writing lessons about aviation. Yeah, sign me up. It was an interesting set of interviews because they were all conducted it was the first time I ever did a video conference this is pre-pandemic, so we were doing video calls across the ocean, and fortunately I was hired. We moved here right before the pandemic started, and then quickly did everything from home. but no, we were about halfway through the curriculum when I started, and I helped wrap it up. And now it's a full, could be as long as 6 years curriculum for high school students. And I want to tell you a little bit about it, what it is, and how I'd like to use it with students today. So we can go on. So the curriculum I'm going to talk to you about was, it's been worked on at AOPA, of course, down the way here. But really it is all a result of donations to the AOPA Foundation. Right? So, that's their it's charitable, their foundation. And everything that you're going to hear about tonight was completely funded by donors, which tells you, I think, how much interest there is in aviation education in our world, which is pretty cool. Okay. So for those of you that might not know about You Can Fly, when you look at the building down there, they've got the You Can Fly logo on the building. That was something that was started by the guy who's president now, Mark Baker, when he came in. And the idea was to bring everybody back into aviation, who's been out, and help foster new people into aviation. And so the high school curriculum was developed to sort of encourage young people to get into aviation, because as he came on board, that's when we're starting to see the warnings about the pilot shortage, the great pilot shortage, and there was no way there really wasn't a way for students to be encouraged in school to be pilots. And so he thought this would be a great way to go. So that's when the curriculum got started. Flight training was something they wanted to emphasize. There were people at You Can Fly who worked with flight schools and flight instructors to help them be better at their jobs, and to get more people to not only start taking lessons, but also continue lessons, because we've known for a long time that a lot of students will start, but then drop off before they earn a certificate. For the people that do have a certificate, though, how do we keep them flying, right? And that was the Flying Clubs initiative. The idea there was to build more flying clubs, encourage flying clubs to bring new members in, really get the flying club movement going. And they did a great job with that. And then, of course, if someone's been out of flying, come on back. Let's let's enjoy flying again. And that was the Rusty Pilots program, where there were classes set up either online or in person, where people who've been away from aviation could come back, get up to speed on the new regulations and rules, and refresh some of the things that are tough for us to all remember, like what are those airspaces again? How fast can I fly below 18,000 feet away? All right, so those are the 4 initiatives. And even though I worked with everybody, I was really dedicated to writing the high school curriculum. Okay. And again, as I mentioned, right, pilot shortage was a big problem, and that's really where we started. Honestly, when I came on board, it was all about the pilots. But one of the things that we learned going forward, and another reason why I think working with EAA is going to be so cool, is that there's an even greater problem with mechanics. There's a mechanic shortage like nothing else, and the airlines are hurting, the military is hurting, general aviation's hurting, and so I certainly don't have to tell you guys that. I'm sure everybody knows about that. And so we started plans to help encourage students to get into aviation maintenance as well. All right, so, and this is just something we use to tell everybody about the shortages. Boeing puts out an annual report every year that where they talk about all the different shortages, and their next one should be coming out anytime soon, unless they're busy tightening bolts on door plugs. But it's a need. It's a really, really important need. Okay, let's go. Pilots, mechanics, yeah, sure. Those are the star careers that that we tend to highlight. But there's so many other jobs in aviation. One of the things that I love telling people and students is that think of a job. It exists in the aviation community. You know, whether it's being a helicopter pilot, a corporate pilot, a mechanic, a drone operator, air traffic controller. Okay, these are all different jobs. My favorite one is why that picture's there. Interior designer. I know a couple of you guys fly corporate jets. They're pretty nice insides, right? Who designed that? Somebody had to, think about materials, designs, colors, patterns, all that kind of stuff, right? Even the insides of airliners. I learned today that Southwest is, redesigning the interior of its airplanes. Somebody's got to do that. Somebody has to do logos. Somebody has to paint aircraft. I just saw it a couple weeks ago. Did you guys see this? I forget what the name of it is, but I think it was at Oshkosh. Somebody had painted a Mini with all these multicolored.
They call it mosaic.
Mosaic. Is that it? Okay. Yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful Technicolor paint job. It was really cool. There's an artist that got involved with a pilot. And let's see. The number of jobs is innumerable. Okay, that's good. So this is what we designed the program to address, right? The high demand aerospace careers that we've been talking about. But what is the curriculum altogether? If you think about high school programs like auto shop, carpentry, electrical work, cosmetology, right? These sort of career programs that students can take in high school. We used to call them vocational programs. They've been around for a long time, but there's never been an aviation career program in schools. And so this is designed to be that. And what we were able to create were 4 years plus of classes. So a school could decide to just offer an elective in aviation, like an introduction, or courses that help the student get their private pilot certificate written exam done. And that's considered an industry credential. An industry recognized credential is important for career and technical education programs for students in high school. And so we designed the courses to be that. So a school could offer 1 year of the program, 2 years of classes, 4 years of classes, even 5 or 6 years, depending what they do, because we could address just fixed wing flight, or we could address remote pilot skills, being a drone pilot. And we even tacked on, most recently, a semester of basically how to be a good employee. And basically it's all about communication skills, interview skills, working with others. It's all the sort of soft skills that people need to be a good employee. Okay. So this is sort of displaying what I was talking about in terms of how a school could set things up. That in grade 9 students might take an introduction to aviation. And it's very broad based. It's like Aviation 101, right? It's got a little bit of history, a little bit of physics, a little bit of test prep. It's all sort of rolled in there to give students a flavor of what the aviation world is like. And then when we get to grade 10, students can start learning basically the first half of the PHAC, the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. Right? So that's a lot of the forces of flight, the aircraft systems, aircraft performance, that's in there. Now you notice above that grade 10 course topics, there's an aircraft and a fixed wing airplane and a drone. And that's because students who are interested in drones and traditional aircraft are working together. They're studying the same stuff. For those of you that took the Part 107 exam, if you took that independently of the FAA course, you know that it's a lot of private pilot material that's on there. And so let's teach them at the same time since they're learning the same stuff. Next year, if you're going the say fixed wing route, maybe you're going to get into our grade 11 curriculum where you're continuing the second half of the PHAC, right? You're learning about flight planning, you're learning about weather, all that information is there. Now, if you're in the drone class, that's where they really hit the drone information hard. That semester is kind of like a full-on drone course. I'm sure you've seen the YouTube ads for, that was a Pilot 101, take my Part 107 course online kind of thing. It's a lot of the detailed information students need to learn about being a drone pilot. Now, they could stop there if they wanted and be fine. But if they want to keep going, great. We have another year of courses where students can learn advanced topics. And this is kind of, again, this is like a survey course, basically. So for, say, our traditional pilots, they're going to learn about what instrument flying is. They're going to learn about advanced aircraft systems. How does pressurization work? How do retractable landing gear systems work? How do de-icing systems and anti-icing systems work? That's in there. And then for the UAS students, they're learning about it's almost like on-the-job training in school. There are a lot of scenarios for them to practice so that they can learn about what it's like to be working in the field as a drone operator. Okay. And then down at the bottom there, that's what the newest course I mentioned, where they're learning about career skills and in aviation anecdotes and examples. So just to expand a tiny bit, that grade 9 course is that introductory course, and this is the survey course. And while every course was designed to be active and hands-on, so the students are doing things, this one I think is probably the most fun. The students are building hot air balloons here. They're flying paper airplanes, ball set airplanes. They're constructing things. One of the aspects of the curriculum that we try to repeat throughout the years is the engineering design process. So you have an idea, you build something, you test it, it breaks, so you redesign it, you test it again, you just keep going around in that cycle, right? And so there are some projects that the kids work on that are, you give them this pile of stuff and say, okay, take all this junk and use it to make lift this Dixie cup of paper clips to the ceiling. Figure out how to do that. Kind of like like an Apollo 13, that movie where the engineers got all the stuff that was on board the service module and whatever, right, that they had to make the scrubbers with. It's kind of like that, right? And they have to innovate. And of course, nothing ever works the first time, and so they have to iterate a few times until they figure out something that works. And so that's a huge part of a lot of the activities. But they're also building and flying tissue paper hot air balloons, and maybe flying a lot of rockets, that kind of thing. So it's a great survey of all things aviation, as well as the history. One of the activities is building a wind tunnel out of cardboard that's very similar to what the Wright brothers used, and testing airfoil shapes that they make. Just by using a little kitchen scale and a foam airfoil, they can see how much lift is generated at different angles of attack. It's kind of cool. It's fun. Okay. Oh, actually, can we go back more? Sorry. So anyway, this is the course that I would like to be able to bring to students here at the EAA chapter. One of the amazing things about this program is that it's in use now in over 500 schools across the country. And when you think about the number of students that have access to these courses in the United States, it's in the tens of thousands, like 23,000 students have the ability to take these classes across the country. And that's in public schools mostly, and some private schools. But homeschoolers are allowed to use the curriculum as well. And I have 2 teenagers who recently wanted to get into homeschooling because we don't have cheap hobbies in our family, and they decided that, well, we can't be pilots yet, Dad, so we can't get airplanes. How about horses? We'd like to be horse riders. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Oh, and photography too. Yeah, that's their other cheap hobby that they're into. Anyway, so they spent a lot of time at the barn, and they moved into the homeschool world. And I discovered as part of that, there weren't a lot of opportunities for homeschoolers to learn about aviation or learn about STEM subjects in general. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is build a number of courses that are STEM courses for homeschool students. And I wanted to lead with this one because, well, I know it so well, and also it's exciting. You know, how fun to have a class at the airport surrounded by all this cool stuff. And give them the opportunity to become future EAA members. Because if they're learning about stuff with me, they're certainly going to be wanting to work on wings, pulleys, flat motors, help build aircraft. Maybe you're going to need a second set of hands when you finally get back to that project, right? And it's one of the students.
And it might be smaller hands too.
There you go. Exactly. And Alexander, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you've probably made a lot of connections, and you're doing a lot, right? Yeah. So, and you're a homeschool student as well, right? Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, his mom and I have been talking about how to make the course more accessible by not only having an in-person class, but also maybe having an online version where students could do the course remotely. So, see how that goes. Anyway, let's go on. I'll just share a little bit about the additional years. As I said, the first half of the PHAC is what comes in the next year of courses, and they get a little more detailed information about the physics of flight and some aircraft systems. There's a little hydraulic model there that the students build to create a scissor lift using water as the hydraulic fluid, and so they learn the concepts with that. And of course, for forces, we start talking about aircraft performance charts and how to read them. So those are important aspects of it. Okay.
Where does PHAC come from?
That's the FAA's book called the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. And then we move into grade 11, and this is where if a school has populations of students that are interested in drones versus traditional aircraft, they might split apart. And if they do, the school might offer two courses. And one is for the traditional aircraft pilots, and that's our where they're getting deeper into what it means to be a pilot. So they're learning about flight planning, they're learning about weather, they're learning about weight and balance. They're really getting into the nitty-gritty of what it means to plan and conduct a flight. And then the drone pilots future drone pilots are looking for, they're looking at detailed information about all the different systems and sensors and operating rules for drones. So. And then finally, as I mentioned, grade 12, they get a survey of more advanced topics in both pathways. So we can't really do much in terms of instrument flying education because it's a short period of time for them, really one semester, and I'll explain why that is in a second. So we just give them some overviews. We show them different things like approach plates. There are supplemental activities where if a school has simulators, maybe they can practice flying an instrument approach or just flying by flight to the reference to the instruments, just to get a sense of what that might be like. But these topics are generally one semester, because the second semester of grade 12 is what's called a capstone project. And a lot of high schools actually have this. A lot of schools do require students to do some sort of end of high school project. And we give students in this program an entire semester to pick a topic in aviation that they're interested in and really dive deeply into it and then present it at the end. So there's a little time at the beginning where the student thinks about a topic that they might want to investigate further, talk it over with the teacher, make a plan. Then they've got a couple of months that are really just supervision by the teacher to make sure they're moving ahead, making progress, getting assistance where they need it. And then usually at the end there's kind of like a science fair type event where students get to present their projects. Okay. The that's our capstone there. So we've had reports of some students starting their own drone company, which is kind of cool. Some students help build aircraft. They connect with the EAA in their area, and their project is to one that I know of was they helped complete the entire rudder control system for an aircraft. So that was what they wrote about, and documented, and presented. I don't know how many pulleys were in that RV's rudder system, but that's what they worked on.
No pulleys in RVs.
Oh, that's right. Push rods. Yes, that's right. Exactly, push rods. So yes, I forgot about that. Thank you. So those are some examples of things that people do. Getting back to that interior design aspect, there was a student who designed the interior of an airliner. Color scheme, fabric patterns, and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. All right, keep going. So we'll just swipe through these. For a lot of these slides are geared towards schools and teachers, just so they understand how complete it is. But this is the real deal. I mean, AOPA Foundation spent millions of dollars making a real set of courses here. I mean, this is like, when a teacher opens a textbook, the teacher's edition, they've got everything they need for a lesson written out. Same thing with the AOPA curriculum. So it's really nice and comprehensive. And so they get lesson plans, all the presentations are there for the teachers. Go to the next one. All right. All the activities for students, any tests, quizzes, notes for teachers, directions. It's all there. It's all part of the package. And can we go on again?
Back or forward?
Forward. Yeah, sorry. Forward. And the best part about all of this is that it's free. Because everything was created with donations, right? The AOPA is able to offer this to schools for free. So when they say, well, how much does it cost? It's like, nothing. Nothing, right? Well, okay, it costs something. You got to have some materials. Oh, sure, okay, you're going to make me buy a Redbird flight simulator for $200,000, right? No, not at all. No, you need like $1,500, $2,000. What? Oh yeah, well you gotta get maybe you have to get some scissors, you gotta get some tissue paper, you gotta get some cardboard, popsicle sticks, all that kind of stuff. Because that's everything that the students use to build models is stuff you can get Walmart 5 and 10, Home Depot. It was designed that way so that it was accessible for everybody. And there are schools. In my experience with AOPA, I had to talk to a couple schools and tell them, it's really nice that your town gave you a grant to start an aviation program, but you don't need to spend it all on one big fancy giant flight simulator. It's not going to help you. When we get 1 kid, 2 kids in a flight simulator like that at a time, how is that going to help? So we tend to focus their attention back on the hands-on activities, the things that help them, gain a love and affection and understanding of what's going on, behind the scenes, like what you all do. Okay, can we go forward? One thing that it's important to emphasize, I think, though, is that this isn't a pass or test course. This isn't we've run into a number of schools that say, well, we already have an aviation class. So, well, tell me about it. Well, somebody who used to be an airline pilot or is a retired military pilot, is coming in to teach a 1-semester course where they run through an ASA test prep book, in a semester, and the kids take the test at the end. And that's not us. This is the math. This is the science. This is the history behind aviation. We're as a matter of fact, the courses in some states are certified as a legitimate math course or a legitimate science course. So Oklahoma is a good example. In Oklahoma, the schools are allowed to offer these as an official science course or an official math course. So it's kind of cool. Let's go for it again. And again, I mentioned some numbers. This is last year. I don't know the numbers for this year, but the growth has been ridiculous. It's incredible. It's spread like wildfire, and they're doing really well. As a matter of fact, in about a month, there's going to be a symposium. It's the 10th annual high school aviation symposium that AOPA runs every year for aviation educators, and it's in Atlanta, and I think Delta is helping them with it. So we can go in. And just to help visualize, the distribution of where the schools are, this is kind of where they fall in the country. Very heavy in the eastern half, but it's kind of phenomenal, really, how many people are exposed to this. And then just, again, one of the goals of the program was to help introduce more students from different backgrounds to aviation. And, when they looked at who's on the flight deck of airliners today, right? There really was not a lot of diversity, and so one of the goals of the program was to encourage more students of all backgrounds to get involved. And it's been growing tremendously. To see that about 22% of the students taking the courses are female is a big change from years ago even. So that's really amazing. And if I remember this correctly, the ethnicity of students most recently matches the students in the class is not working in aviation yet, but it matches the breakdown in the last U.S. Census. So that's pretty cool. So kind of interesting. Okay, so let's move on. We can skip that. That's it's more for superintendents and principals. But yeah, now what after taking the classes, what do students want to do? So this is kind of what is most encouraging, because where students didn't even know anything in aviation was a career possibility, this is what they're starting to look at now. A lot of students are interested in looking for an aviation career, right? And then we see where it breaks down into being a pilot, a mechanic, an engineer, or other aerospace facets. It's pretty amazing what's happening. Okay. Not only are students showing an interest in careers in aviation, but they're doing things as students, and those milestones are reflected on this chart. So over the past few years, since I started taking notes about these things, these are some of the milestones that students have achieved. Just look at starting flight training. That alone is huge. To have that many students at least get involved with taking a lesson or approaching a flight school, that's really impressive. And even earning a private pilot certificate, there aren't a lot of students who are still in high school that have a pilot certificate. The most interesting thing for me was that my mom had to drive me to my flight test because I was still a few days away from getting my driver's license. So it was pretty interesting. But no, the interest is growing, and I'd like to continue that and be a part of that and grow the interest right here, literally right here if we can. There's only one school in Frederick right now that's teaching this curriculum, St. John's Catholic Prep. And the public school system has expressed an interest, but they haven't been ready. I talked to them when I first got here in 2019, and they're like, well, that's nice, but call me when you're finished. And so I did, and they're like, oh, that's nice. Maybe we'll think about that. It takes time to get these things going. And then the last time I talked to them, they had just got a new superintendent and director of curriculum who came from, sorry, I forget, I think it might be Montgomery County, where Magruder High School is, and they have the program there. And so the administrators that came from there came here and said, what do you mean you don't have it? They're in your county. The people who wrote this are in your county. So yeah, well, we've had issues. And then maybe you heard in the news, Frederick County schools had a $50 million shortfall in their budget most recently for next year. And so again, it's on hold again. Mm-hmm. But fingers crossed, maybe it'll make it into the schools in the next couple of years. But I think we've got a little bit more. Oh yeah. So this is interesting too, because one of the issues is who can teach this. Yeah. All right. Sure. I can teach it because I grew up around aviation. I'm a flight instructor. I'm a certified teacher. Right. It's natural, right? There aren't a lot of me, unfortunately. So what as part of the program is training for teachers, and it turns out that everything is so comprehensive and so well written and so simple and easily laid out for teachers that anyone with any knowledge or interest can teach it. We've had gym teachers teach it, social studies teachers teach it, English teachers teach it, people who were just voluntold by the principal to go take the training class and teach it. You know, I don't know, an elevator from the flapper on, so, we teach them over the course of a few days, and they're ready to go. And the teacher in particular, just to highlight one person's story, she didn't know. She was one of the voluntold, and didn't know anything about aviation. Thought, okay, yeah, I guess I'll do what I'm told, and liked it so much that she went ahead and got into pilot training and got a certificate, and is still teaching in the curriculum. So it's pretty impressive. And, one of the nice things is that, like EAA, there are scholarships at AOPA too, and also by the Ray Foundation. And some of the teachers have used scholarship money to get their certificates, and that's anything from their basic ground instructor to advanced ground instructor to private pilot certificate. So it's not only inspiring students but also inspiring teachers. So anyway, I'm just looking at the time here, and I think that sort of gives you a good idea of the program and what it's capable of. And like I said, I'm on a mission to start bringing this to more students. And because my own kids wanted to go the homeschool route, I thought maybe I'll do that too. And hopefully we can get more kids in the community involved in our community.
So what's the next step?
Well,
as far as recruiting students?
Well, next step is for me to get the word out about starting the course, and I'd like to start in the next semester, so like a January start most likely. And once the word goes out in a couple of weeks to the homeschool community, we'll see what our enrollment is. I need at least 5. I need a minimum of 5 students who can participate in the program in order to be allowed by AOPA to teach it like that. So if we can round up 5 students to start with, it'll be a great test case. And like I said, Alexander's mom has helped me with some details, and we're working out whether it would be like a full semester or just 2 quarter semesters. We're narrowing that down, and we'll see where we go from there.
Are we thinking evenings? What time? How many days?
We're looking at probably one day a week for sure. We're thinking about maybe during the week, because that would be, it'd be quiet here. It would be when students are in student mode, if you will. But depending on how the response goes, we might end up having to change that. So we'll see. See around one. If we can do it like a few hours during the day during the week, that'd be great. If it looks like we have to move it to a weekend, maybe the second quarter we can move it to a weekend day. But
you're talking about in person as opposed to remote.
Yeah, that would be that's the goal. The goal is to get people together because a lot of the activities are designed to be done by multiple people. Because once again, remember that final course that was written where it was like workplace skills. You're going to have to work with other people eventually, and so this is a way to foster that. And also, it's cool to be surrounded by all this stuff, in the environment, smell the smells. Who knows? Maybe walking down the ramp, you'll bump into somebody who will say, "Hey, do you want to go for a flight?" Or maybe they'll interact with the mechanics, the hangar doors open at Frederick Flight Center, or bump into a flight instructor who will encourage them to take lessons.
I don't think you mentioned this, but do you think you could do like summer classes or anything of that like?
I have been thinking about that, and actually somebody that I used to work with is now at Frederick County Community College, and she's running a summer program, and she just called me to ask if I would be interested in teaching an aviation summer class. They're open to students from age that, pick an age range. We go as low as 8 years old up to end of high school. So they're good.
I've been through this curriculum myself, and it's fine. But maybe over the summer when you can actually learn something, because usually you lose a lot of that information you retain. So maybe you can do it over the summer.
We're on our way.
Or even have the school do it over the summer, and then they can pick it up in the school year, just to keep it going, right?
That would be great if they could. And there are some schools that have. It's not exactly the course during the summer, but they continue learning over the summer because the school also has a flying club that's related to the course, and so students will work on their aircraft and their club aircraft during the summertime or do club activities.
So EAA has a rather strict policy about working with youth. For like the Young Eagles program, we have to go through training, and when we have Young Eagles programs, we have to notify EAA that we're doing it now. So other people here are much more familiar than I am, but I would presume there's going to have to be some vetting.
We've already vetted it through EAA.
Did you? Okay.
They're fine with it. We will get the insurance policy like we do for Young Eagle flights, but because it's not one-on-one, that youth protection wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
And because I'm a certified teacher, my fingerprints are on file with the FBI and the state and all that kind of stuff. So I'm in the system as well. It's started teaching in 1994, so I've got a track record as well.
And another thing, just for general knowledge, Erik is talking about charging parents. I think it was $350 to do the child do the course. EAA is like, hey, that's between Erik and the parents. EAA is not doing any money transfers, so that was not an issue.
Because that's one of the reasons for the charge is just my time, of course, and presenting everything and materials, but also this would qualify as a credit-bearing course for the homeschool high school students, and that's a great value to any of them we're doing it, because you have to build a certain number of credits in each of the core subject areas. So this could count as a science class or an elective for them.
But it's kind of a class, traditional classroom setting. Is it a daily class? Is it
That's a wonderful question, and it was written originally for a traditional high school schedule. So your 50-minute class period, meeting 5 days a week. Right? But a lot of high schools have different schedules. Like for example, Oakdale High School, they have a block schedule. So a course that would normally be stretched out like that across a year is taught twice as long, right, in one semester. So some schools have that kind of a schedule, and there are variations on that, block scheduling of all different kinds. Where students might meet for, I remember one school that met for like 3 hours twice a week, and so that's how they got their time. So it seems to be flexible enough to handle all those different ideas.
How would I find schools that offer this curriculum in my area?
You'd have to contact the AOPA's high school department. That's HS High School at AOPA.org, and they can tell you. Mary?
Do you have this material available for nonprofits, say like Civil Air Patrol that teaches aviation as part of their education?
So when I was working at AOPA, we talked to Civil Air Patrol a lot. We worked with them a lot, and it's a little bit challenging because schools that use Civil Air Patrol materials find that there's a huge amount of overlap, right? And we were always trying to figure out a way to blend the material, and it just kind of became, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
The units wind up they teach aviation at least once a month.
yes.
And a lot of times the students find, or with a leader to guide them, they find something that actually it's taught by the older students to the rest of the chapter. It's
Right.
part of their leadership.
Yes.
But in doing your remote training, and that's an opportunity for them to get up to speed and have material to then turn around and teach, because they do. It depends on the unit, But they do some extensive things as far as like the engineering aspect.
Yes. Yeah, that gets into a little bit of a tricky situation with the way bless you, the AOPA Foundation has structured this. They're very strict about saying it needs to be offered as a high school credit-bearing course. And that's where we were having some difficulties in finding a way to
Yeah.
work it into the way Civil Air Patrol does things, because they weren't offering it as a high school course, and it's frowned upon to present the material piecemeal. The idea is to run through as a real rigorous course. So I know.
There's no particular certificate that comes from this, and it's on your transcript that you participated in an aviation program. Is there? You mentioned a capstone project, but is there? I mean, if you came in as an 8th grader, 9th grader, 10th grader, and then didn't continue, are you losing out of getting the aviation AOPA certificate, or
AOPA does not give a certificate.
Okay.
It's just a course. It's kind of like if you think about an AP Advanced Placement math course, like AP Calculus in high school, right? The AP organization says, here's what you got to teach, right? And then maybe Mifflin McGraw-Hill produces an AP Calculus textbook. We're kind of like the Hoot Mifflin, right? We produce the text materials, and then the student takes the course with that textbook, and then goes to a test center and passes the AP exam and gets the certificate.
Well, you get
Is there one? Is there one for this AOPA course? Or you saying
Yes, it's called the FAA Private Pilot Exam. That's how it works. Yeah, there are tests and quizzes that are part of this, like any high school course.
Yeah.
But the industry credential certificate is the
That's
FAA
the real deal.
written assurance. Oh yeah, or the Part 107 exam. The Part 107, they can take that. And that capstone project that you mentioned, some students even take their instrument written exam as part of it. Like that's their project, is to study for the instrument written, and they take that at the end of the semester.
Of course, the real drawback or hurt for people interested in aviation is the expense of flying. So it's kind of dry if it's all, for year after year after year, to take an instrument written exam and never having flown an airplane. You can do that in prison, I suppose. But
Some students would say that's what high school is. You're absolutely right, and that's partly why a huge part of what the AOPA Foundation does and what EAA does is raise money for the scholarships.
For scholarships, exactly.
Right.
And if people have got the commitment or interest or inspiration, from family members or whatever to pursue it, then they're obviously good candidates for the scholarship.
Yes, and that's another reason why I really want to be part of working with the students here at EAA, because I think there are more opportunities for students to get into airplanes and get their hands on aircraft and the controls even by being surrounded by people like yourselves than just flailing about alone. One of the things we do at the teacher training workshops is really encourage teachers to make connections with flight instructors or EAA chapters.
But this is a school-based program, and you're talking about credentialism. So how do non-teacher credentialed pilots, who may have a lifetime of experience, aid this program? We're not welcomed into the schools, for example. You're taking gym teachers to teach this curriculum.
In some cases, that has happened, yes.
But, but I mean, just as an example, non-pilots is all right. You've come to pitch this to us, but how do so my wife is an experienced teacher with all the credentials, but I'm not an experienced pilot. How do we actually integrate this?
Well, that would be with me. So we would have a conversation to say, like, okay, so here's what I plan to teach next week. What's your comfort level with this subject? So whether I'm teaching here or if I was teaching in a regular high school, I'd want to meet with you and say, okay, how about I introduce the topic and then introduce you as somebody who can talk about it, and maybe you had I showed the picture of the hydraulic lift. Maybe you had some experience with hydraulics at some point that you wanted to share and say, hey, look, I can help walk you guys through what a hydraulic system is and how it works. I can talk about how it works on the aircraft that I flew and show you the similarities between this model that we're going to build and what's in the real airplane. And you don't need to be a certified teacher.
So you're coming as a guest speaker or as
Yeah.
an assistant. It's my experience of just being a parent with kids in high school is I couldn't get in the building, because of the fear of mass shootings.
They're, unfortunately, yeah, that has become more common.
I couldn't pick up my kid from school without being real.
That's, most of my teaching career was before all of that hit, so I'm
So you're
kind
not.
of old school that way, and in terms of, I really think it's important for students to be exposed to people who have knowledge that is aligned with what they want to learn about.
Well, it'd be nice if that is actually the case, that the outreach is there. I think there is a certain amount of turf mentality in schools, that you're not a teacher, you're just a parent, parents together.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens. Yeah. Yeah. I would not deny that. It's sad. Sad but true.
So will you be using the AOPA's Redbird, the simulator that they have?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that. We could.
There's also
But
computer
again-
software that I know Civil Air Patrol sends out too.
Yes, that's right. That's it. I would be more inclined to ask students to get like X-Plane or something like that for a laptop, and we would practice that way. So as nice as the Redbirds are, again, you're talking about maybe one student in there at a time, right? And that you've got everybody else just sort of sitting around. Whereas if everybody's got a laptop with maybe $100 of equipment invested, $60 for X-Plane and $40 for a Logitech joystick, that's enough. Everybody can be doing some flight simulation at the same time. And that's actually part of the curriculum. A lot of the lessons have flight simulator components. So if you have access to some kind of flight simulator, try this.
One thing, if it could be anywhere along the line, would be if somebody could give information to the students about how to search for scholarships, how to apply for them, how to write a good letter. And somewhere along at the beginning, somebody needs to, because I was a college professor in the aviation program, and during the introduction, we talked to the students. The first thing was talking about career-limiting choices.
That is a huge need, and we did one year have the how to apply for our scholarships webinar for students during the pandemic. I don't think that ever continued, unfortunately, but it would be great to do because yes, that is a great need.
Also we just happen to have some sim stuff on. We have a yoke and with a few switches and things that look like a throttle, and maybe you could donate some of those things. If the schools would if the school does for it, you could give them something like that, like a model yoke.
That some schools have been lucky that way. Yeah, sometimes parents or pilots.
Penalty.
Have
We have some of those lying around.
Great. What school? If you don't mind me asking.
St. John's Catholic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, yep. Do you know what are they teaching at every grade level now?
Yes. As far as second, third, and the fourth years of capstone project, I wasn't able because I couldn't. But I know people who are still in the capstone project right now.
Nice. That's great. Good to know.
But it's I believe it's all semester though.
Yes. So you would definitely need a listen to that. Any other questions?
Erik, thank you very much. That was a lot of potential there. We're definitely interested in following this. We'll be in touch.
Thanks. Yeah. No.